All right. Assalamu alaikum. Peace upon you all. Thank you for joining us. And Ramadan Kareem for those around the world who are observing Ramadan. You know, that's about a quarter of the world, 2 billion people. My name is Rana Dajani. I'm the founder of Wheel of Reading and a professor of molecular biology. I'm an Ashoka Fellow, social entrepreneur, an Eisenhower Fellow, a Fulbrighter, and I'm one of the founding members of Catalyst 2030. Catalyst 2030 is a worldwide movement that drives collaborations to solve urgent challenges of our times. So I urge you and invite you to be part of this wonderful movement so that together we can make a difference in this world. What we're going to do in the next hour, I'm going to share with you what Wheel of Reading is all about and how it relates to these strange times of the corona for around 30 to 40 minutes. And then we're going to open it for a discussion with the audience for like 15 to 20 minutes. You know, we're here to learn from each other and interact because that's how we can grow together. I'm going to, you know, as a scientist and a biologist, I believe that human beings have been evolving over millennia. And as they evolved, they have been, there were actually, in the ancient past, I believe there were two groups of people. There was a group of people who sat around the fire and told stories. And there was another group of people who actually looked at those who were telling the stories and thought, these people are wasting their time. They should be doing something else. But can you guess which group of people actually survived? It was the storytellers. Yes. And so in that spirit, in the spirit of evolution and storytelling, I'm going to share with you a story. I'm going to read you a story out loud. This is a story. It's called Amal in Arabic, which means hope. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Hope, Amal, who escaped the war in her country or in a rural village or the coronavirus. She sees children running towards someone like bees to a flower. She listens to a woman reading aloud. She runs home with a storybook, excited to her mother, and asks her, almost demands her to read to her. Surprised, her mother opens the book, and both are lost in the story, finding a place in their imagination that is fun, safe, and warm. They smile, feeling some sort of whole again. Now, Sarah wants to go to school. She wants to learn in any possible way because she wants to unlock the magic. She wants to be the hero in the story. Who is this woman reading aloud? She's a worker, a mother. She may be a refugee or on her own land, disabled or not, young or old. Through reading aloud, the woman is mastering the art of narrative, which returns agency to her against her exploited livelihood or in her dire situation. Asma, the woman who's reading aloud, volunteers to read to children in her community, storybooks in her language from her culture. The regular reading aloud sessions give her a purpose that is attainable and simple. She owns this program. Through it, she discovers her voice, literally and figuratively. She is present in a new way. On her phone, through the Wheel of Reading Global Network, she's able to connect with Maria in Argentina and others, all in a virtual community. Humans need simple solutions that they can be part of. Come join us and read. The end. And now I'm going to share with you a short video which is a technical glitch I'm trying to fix. Let's see. Or we won't. So.
Yes, Doctor, you can, from the share screen settings, you can go out and leave to another tab.
Okay. All right, let's do this. All right. Here we go. You can see my screen?
Yeah.
So that was just to give you a brief glimpse of what we do at We Love Reading. And now we'll go back to our presentation to give you more details and to share. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yeah. So first I'm going to introduce myself briefly just to tell you who I am. And when I introduce myself, I like to say that I play 5 roles in my life. I do, and you know, when you talk about roles, you talk about wearing a hat, that you wear 5 hats. But because I don't wear a hat, I wear a scarf. I say I wear 5 scarves. So the first scarf that I wear is that I'm a mother. And that's the most role that I'm proud of, because nobody can substitute me for being a mother. In my other roles, somebody can come and do it, but nobody can be a better mother than me. And that's the most important thing I can do for humanity, by helping to bring up the next generation of humans. The second hat or role or scarf that I wear is that I'm a teacher. I was a teacher for 10 years before I became a professor. And even as a professor, I'm teaching older students. And I think the second most important role a human being can offer humanity is being an educator or a teacher. Bringing up the next generation, inspiring them, giving them the ability to think critically and to be to make a difference in their own community. The third role is that I'm a scientist. I'm a molecular biologist. I work on studying trauma impact on refugees, both not just on the mental health, but also on their physiology. So for example, we look at the cortisol in the hair, and because cortisol is a stress hormone that reflects how stressed you are. So what we do is we take a sample of hair, and as long as your hair is, we have actually a history of how stressed you are, because your hair grows 1 centimeter a month. The other research I do is I look at ethnic populations and look at their genetics associated with particular diseases. For example, in the corona now, we're looking at are particular genotypes more susceptible to infection or less so? And if we can understand that, we can understand the mechanism of corona infection, and then may hopefully develop better therapies in the future, or prevention. And of course, we work also in policy. And we created the first stem cell law to control therapy and research in the Middle East, in Jordan, where I am from. My fourth scarf is I'm a social entrepreneur. And I started and founded We Love Reading in 2006, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. My fifth scarf, I usually don't tell you what it is. And I invite you to read my book, which is called 5 Scarves, Doing the Impossible. And if you read the book, you can discover what the fifth scarf is. And I'd appreciate it if you could share with me what you think about the book and what you think about the fifth scarf going forward. And I am actually half Palestinian. I'm from Jerusalem. My family has been in Jerusalem for 800 years at least. And I'm half Syrian. My mother's from Aleppo, which is one of the most ancient cities in the world as well. However, I live in Jordan, and I am a Jordan citizen as well. So we're all multinational, multi-ethnic, multicultural, and this is the true humanity, the beauty of diversity that brings us all together to go forward to solve the problems of the world. Now, reading intrigued me. And why did it intrigue me? Because I realized that children around me don't read for fun. They read for education, they read for religion, they read for other purposes, but not for fun. And I was so really felt that reading for fun is very urgent, because when a child reads for fun, their imagination grows. They learn about other people, other cultures, so they learn solutions that they can implement in their own part of the world. Rather than just being dependent on the narrow experience they receive within their community, they learn to become the heroes that they read about, so they get the courage and the confidence to become change makers. They learn vocabulary, so they do better at school because they have more words. They're more confident in themselves and more balanced and less violence, because now they can use words to express themselves rather than physical action. And they become very creative, because they have a much more rich vocabulary to use that to think about the things and what's going on in the world. So reading for fun is very important if we want to reap the benefits of literacy and reading. And so the question then came to me, why don't children read for fun? And I found out, it's after observation and research, is that these children don't love to read. There's no passion. So the question then became, how do I make a child fall in love with reading? Because these children obviously do not love to read. And again, through research and observations, I found out the way to make a child fall in love with reading is by the parent, the caregiver, to read aloud to the child as early as when even the mother is pregnant. Because as the child's brain is growing, the neurons are making connections, there becomes an association between the feeling of security, happiness, and care that's associated with reading that stays in the brain of the child as they grow up. So when they're sad, they like to read. When they're happy, they like to read. It gives them this good feeling from the inside that stays forever. So they become lifelong readers and therefore lifelong learners. So cool, I found the solution. Parents should read aloud to their kids. But what could I do? I mean, should I knock on every door and ask every parent to read aloud? I mean, that's not practical. And even if I told the government to pass a law, that doesn't mean parents are going to, abide by the law. So I thought the least I could do was for me to reach my children, which I obviously do, but I felt that's not enough because that's selfish. And I looked around me and I thought, you know what? I'm going to read to the children in my neighborhood, just the local neighborhood. And I chose a place, I wanted a public space, so all the children could come without feeling that they had to take permission, and it should be a safe place. And because I'm from the neighborhood, I realized in my neighborhood, I live in Jordan, that the safe space was a mosque. So I thought, I'm going to read in the mosque. And that's where I started reading in 2006. Of course, the imam, the person responsible for the mosque got excited, and he announced that there's going to be reading aloud on Saturday morning. Now, the parents, when they heard there's going to be reading in the mosque, they thought, education, religion, this is cool. And they, of course, they told their children to wake up Saturday morning to come and attend the reading aloud. The children didn't want to come. This was Saturday morning, their weekend. But children are obedient. They listen to their parents, and they came. But when they came and attended the reading aloud, it had nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with education. Sorry for the educators. It was just pure fun. We had puppets. I wear this funny hat. Remember, I was a teacher in my other life. And we were reading stories in the native language, so it was easy to understand, and stories from the everyday life of the child. So the child who wants to run away, the child who doesn't like to kiss his auntie, things that the kids could relate to. And the kids fell in love with reading. They line up, they take the books home. So you don't need a lot of books because it's an exchange program. And then they take the books home and they start trying to read by themselves. Even if they can't read, they can look at the pictures and try to make up a story. They start begging their parents to read to them. So we kind of flip the equation. Rather than the parent begging the children to read, which doesn't work, it's the children now, please read to me, because they've unlocked that magic. Or they start reading to their siblings and their friends. So the child became the champion of reading in the household. And children started wanting to go to school because they realized that if I go to school, or I learn, I will unlock the magic of reading, and I can have even more fun. And we wanted to check, is the impact of reading aloud and these reading aloud sessions really making a difference? So we actually collaborated with researchers from different universities, like international, Brown University, Harvard, Yale, NYU, Abu Dhabi, Queen Mary University, and University of Cambridge. And we worked with these different scientists to understand the impact of the program on these children, and then later on the adults and the community. This graph shows you the effect of reading aloud, the We Love Reading program, on executive functions in children, which is like working memory, emotional regulation, inhibitory control. And all these functions make a child do better at school and better learners going forward. And we were able to show, after 6 months of We Love Reading, that there was, of course, statistically significant difference, and even more so for children that were coming from lower socioeconomic status. And we showed in other research that even children who were stressed and had anxiety and were trauma, especially those coming out of war and refugee, had even more benefit from the program. So we proved that it does work, and it impacts not just literacy and education and learning, but also impacts mental health and stress in the children. And then later on, we showed it also in the adults. So what we did then is that we created a program, a training program, and we called all of this We Love Reading. And the training program trains adults from age 16 to 100 years old, men and women, although the majority are women. And they can, they don't have to be highly educated. All they have to do is to be able to read a children's book. And they could, it doesn't matter if they have a physical disability or even a visual disability or an auditory disability. We have different people who've been involved in the program. We train them how to read aloud as an art in their native language, so easy, and how to start the reading circle in their own neighborhood. So in a way, as they started reading aloud in their neighborhood, they discovered their inner potential, and they thought, if I could do this, what else can I do? So they became change makers or social entrepreneurs, going forward, creating their own business, solving other problems in their community, and becoming leaders in the community, taking decisions going forward. And this is the trajectory of their life cycle of them after they adopt the program. So they start with, deciding to attend the training, and then they attend the training. Then they go home and they find a space. And because they know better where to go, so they choose. It could be a mosque, it could be a church, it could be a community center, it could be in your own home. I mean, the person, we call her the We Love Reading ambassador, knows better what place to choose for her children in her own community. And then she starts reading and gets the support from the children, the support from the community. And because she's the one implementing the program, and she's from the community, she's trusted, people listen to her, trust her, and she owns it. So she gets all the credit. We Love Reading as an organization is not up front and central. She is the one up front and central. And the whole community knows that she is the one who started it in her community. So she gets all the credit. Remember, she's a volunteer. We don't pay her any money. But what keeps her going is this credit that she's taking from the community in leading the children and the community to a better place. So she starts reading aloud in her library, and we call it a library because our definition of a library is a living experience. So it's a living library, not a physical library. And then she may get overwhelmed or bored after maybe a year, but then we established this virtual community to keep her connected with other We Love Reading ambassadors around the world, to keep her sustainable, to maintain quality, to keep in touch with her, in a way to gather data and feedback so that we can learn from her and incorporate that learning into the next training. And for example, we did the program in some of the refugee camps in Jordan, especially one of them, which was called Azraq, and everybody told us, oh, you cannot succeed, especially some of the international NGOs, and they thought we wouldn't succeed because we weren't paying money to the people. And we told them, no, you will see. And because of the way the program is designed, this agency and ownership and responsibility that the person assumes, the We Love Reading ambassador, she actually, many of them, we've trained them 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and they are still reading aloud because they found a purpose, and they found, and this built their resilience. So this is kind of our secret sauce, that we know how to motivate people to do things because they want to, not because they have to. And this is so key in creating change makers to take charge of their own lives rather than being victims, waiting for somebody to come and save them from abroad. Because as much as they're going to save them, whoever's coming from outside the country, in the end, they have to depend on themselves. And we need to boost that feeling of agency and ownership going forward. So We Love Reading's slogan is changing mindsets through reading to create change makers. Whether it's the children who through reading are changing their mindsets because they're discovering their inner potential in the world around them, or it's the adults who are discovering, just by reading aloud to kids in their local neighborhoods, this feeling of agency and responsibility is creating in them change makers to create a difference in their world. So this is like doing system change driven from the grassroots, bottom up, which is much more sustainable going forward. So how does our program compare to others? So when we looked around, we thought, other programs that work on education, literacy, even mental health, or empowerment of refugees, or even boosting social entrepreneurship are usually expensive. They're not sustainable because if you run out of money, you can't do it. It requires highly trained people. It's usually in a formal setting, a school or a community center. And not always is it based on scientific evidence. And usually it's alien. It doesn't relate to the culture and the context of the people, so they don't pick it up. Now, We Love Reading actually solves all those problems, right? Because first of all, it doesn't require a highly trained person. You don't even know how to read because you can make up a story. And it's in your native language. It could be anywhere, as I said, your home, under a tree. And now with COVID-19, you could do it in your home to your own kids or the kids in your apartment. It's local culture, right? It's from the culture. You adapt it. It's very flexible. So in Uganda, they do it under a tree. As you saw, in Argentina, they do it wherever they want. Everybody does it in their own place. It's about community, so it's community-based. And it doesn't cost anything. Like I said, it's only the training, and then you don't have to pay anything because it becomes community-driven. And you have, it's about mental health. So it boosts the mental health. So it's a holistic program. It's not just about education and literacy. And this is the beauty of human-centered design. If you do something where you're doing it with the person who you're helping is in the middle of what you design, and actually you're designing it for yourself, not you're designing it for someone else, then you're not just hitting the goal that you intended to start with. You're actually hitting many goals. So when I started, I was doing it thinking about reading for fun. It ended up being a community program, bringing the community together. It ended up being a mental health program for the children and the adults. It ended up being a parent-child relationship to boost the communication between parents and children. So it had so many other impacts holistically. Again, this is because we're doing grassroots system change driven from the bottom. And we had all kinds of children, right? Girls and boys and everybody. When in other programs, you only get a fraction of the children because, the community center driven program that's coming from an international NGO doesn't necessarily know when the children are free, where the parents will allow them to go and so on. So this is system change, right? And so up till now, we've trained over 7,500 We Love Reading ambassadors, who have read to almost 500,000 children, given out almost 250,000 books, and now we are in 55 countries around the world. We've been in the New York Times and Forbes and other outlets, Harvard, Stanford's Social Review, and the Fletcher Forum. We've won multiple awards, amongst them the UNESCO International Literacy Prize, and the Jacobs Foundation, STARS Foundation, the Library of Congress, best practices. And we have many partners around the world who have worked with us, taking our program and implementing it. So what we offer the world is we offer our trainings, which trains We Love Reading ambassadors and coaches who can actually train those ambassadors around the world. These trainings are either face-to-face or online. We have our own books. We've developed a whole set of books about particular themes like gender, disabilities, nonviolence, refugees, social inclusion, and even the environment, energy conservation, water conservation, and anti-littering. We also have a digital management system, so any partner who works with us can actually have access to the system to monitor and evaluate and manage all the We Love Reading ambassadors that they will be training wherever they are. We have a mobile app, so we connect every We Love Reading ambassador around the world together. And we do research, right, to prove the impact of our program and to learn more so that we can develop the program even better. And this learning comes from the We Love Reading ambassadors themselves, because they see that their feedback is incorporated into the next training. So they are actually the program. They are the program. And of course, we know this is very important for education, for poverty, for wars and natural disasters, most importantly today, the COVID-19, and for mental health. And we aim to partner with not just international NGOs, but governments and the private sector. And we will be impacting many of the SDGs, helping to achieve them in the time of 2030, hopefully, because we have a systems approach. We can solve many of those all together because We Love Reading is addressing the root cause. And if you address the root cause, you prevent the escalation, you prevent the development of the problems that we have today. So we believe in addressing root cause rather than putting band-aids later on. And the way we grow, we don't want to have an office in every country. We believe in disproportionate impact, where we partner with others and the others pick up the program and actually start implementing it wherever they are around the world. And so the We Love Reading ambassador is right in the middle. And as she or he read aloud to the children impact indirectly their own families. And so we have a kind of a ripple effect. We've been called a social movement because We Love Reading started this, and then we hope other NGOs will pick it up, and then the community will pick it up, and it'll be like a virus in a good way. And then we don't have to be in business anymore, because this whole generation will be reading aloud to the children, and their children will grow up to be readers, and hopefully it will keep on going as time goes by. So in the time of the corona, what have we done? Again, most of our training was conducted face-to-face, but now we already had a platform for an online training, and we've actually uploaded that and opened it for free for the whole world. It's in Arabic and in English at this point. We would love to expand it to more languages so that we could reach more people. And this online platform is very easy, very simple. People can just hop on, register, and take it, and within 6 hours become read aloud experts. We Love Reading ambassadors. We've opened a YouTube channel for reading aloud sessions. So we invited all our We Love Reading ambassadors to read aloud and record their reading aloud, and we can post them. And this serves two purposes. One, they become role models for other parents to actually do like them. And it's a way for children to listen to a read aloud story like real time. And we also put, although we believe in real books in the hands of the children so that they can feel the books and listen to their parents reading aloud to them to create that interaction with the human being, because human interaction is so important. We evolved as a species to have this human interaction so that our brains can develop and the neurons can connect, so we have better social interactions. If we deprive a child of this human interaction, their brains will not develop properly. That's why we focus on the real book. However, if we cannot get books to people, we will go for the second alternative, which is digital books. So we've put some of our digital books online, and we've put links to other organizations who've offered digital books so that they can be useful. And again, I just want to highlight that the important point for We Love Reading is the experience of reading aloud. How can we immerse a child in that experience? Because we've shown that that is how you plant the love of reading for a child to become a lifelong learner. So it's not so much as the books as much as the experience. So what has happened since we've done that? So for example, in the Zaatri camp, in Jordan. We have Esma. I actually gave her a call last week asking her how are things going. Well, first of all, they don't have any corona virus, no COVID-19 cases at all in the camp of almost 100,000 people, because there was a proper, from Jordan officials, they locked down the camp early on and locked down all Jordan for that matter. And so we've been able to contain the outbreak very well. So they don't have any cases. They're in their caravans. They can interact with each other because there's no cases, but at a minimal basis with social distancing. So Esma's still reading to the kids. And she said that she's trained younger girls, like teenagers, who are also reading to the children. And everybody is so happy. But the cool thing about Esma is not that just she's only reading aloud to the kids. And she's been doing this since I trained her in 2014. Nobody has paid her any money. She does it because she wants to. She's doing it for her own people. She became a writer in the local newspaper. She started writing children's stories as well. She was offered a job to be a teacher, although she never finished high school. And she told them, how could you, I don't have a degree. And they said, no, but you know how to read aloud, you know how to, talk with children, you know how to take care of children. So Esma found her whole life. She became a change maker in her own right. And actually, she's running a campaign now, gathering money from the refugees to fund efforts from the government because she feels so safe compared to her government in Syria going forward. So this is what We Love Reading does. It does create change makers who can push system change, solving the problems that we are facing today. And We Love Reading becomes like a practicum. If I can read aloud to the kids and gather them, then what else can I do? It's about giving that spark, the catalyst, to make a difference in the world. We also have We Love Reading around the world. So we talked with Omar from Algeria. What is he doing? So he opened up the online training and he's inviting people to do it. We have from Vietnam, where there's 700 We Love Reading ambassadors. They've picked up reading and recording digitally and putting it on their YouTube channel. We have Norway. We have a population of refugees in Norway, and they're also reading aloud to the kids. Macedonia, they're also translating now the We Love Reading online training so that they can give access to people who cannot speak English to access the training. We also have Uganda, Uganda, all right, here we go. Uganda Matuvu, who I got to know in 2012, who trained his sister Amina, who was reading under a tree in Uganda in the village, and they're still up and running and very active. So we're very proud of the We Love Reading ambassadors around the world because each one of them is actually a change maker, creating a difference. And this network of people around the world helps us understand what's going on and how we can actually deliver solutions. And I'm gonna, and those who are interested can actually go to our YouTube channel and look at the different videos of the woman reading aloud. We have grandmothers who are reading aloud to their grandchildren at home. We have mothers who are reading aloud to their children. Some have been trained only last month, and some have been trained years ago, and they're still up and running and reading. And I think the cool thing is this feeling of responsibility. We had a woman who was illiterate, who couldn't read, and attended the training. She was 70 years old, and she said, and usually what we do is we give them a bag of books, and we tell them that this is what you can use for your library. So she said, I can't take the bag because I can't start. I don't know how to read. 2 months later, she came back, and she had attended a literacy program, came back and said, now I know how to read. Give me the books. I want to read now. And on the other end, we had women who took the books in a far village, and then 2 months later, we find the books posted back to us. And this woman doesn't have a lot of money. And so we were surprised, and nobody had asked her anything. We don't ask these people. They're free to do whatever they want. This is their program. And she said, I had some circumstances. I cannot read, so I'm going to return the books so you can use them for someone else. So it's about building trust. We have to trust each other. We have to trust the people. When you trust the people, they deliver. But when you don't trust them and they feel it, they will not deliver. So what are the benefits, especially during this time of COVID-19? First of all, because now children are reading for fun and because they love to, they have a passion, they're engaged in learning. So even if there's no school system as it is today, or even in the future, when people are questioning the importance of school in the way it is, and everything is already on the internet, when We Love Reading instills that passion, that love of reading, that will allow the child to seek opportunities of learning wherever they are. So even if the school system is not that good, the child will want to attend school to learn. Even if there's no school system and a child goes into child labor, they will still want to learn and read because they have unlocked that magic, because there's this motivation. It's basic marketing, right? If you love something, you'll turn the world upside down to get it. And it's about creating change makers. So these We Love Reading ambassadors today, in the time of Corona, are thinking of solutions for their own community. What can they do further? And because we have this network that we can help other organizations who are interested in other things, they can tap our network. It's like taking the pulse of the world through our network of We Love Reading ambassadors around the world. You're actually seeing, testing what people are doing at the grassroots level, at the street level. And it's about mental health. I mean, with COVID-19, everybody's at home. People are talking about stress and anxiety and so on. So reading with a child is one way to reduce that stress and create a channel of communication between the adult and the child going forward. And it's about grassroots system change going forward. I mean, people talk about grassroots systems change in the past, and they would say, it's impossible. This can't happen. You know, the bureaucracy, the system's in place. But I think what COVID-19 has given us, I'm very optimistic. You know, my husband says, Rana sees an ocean and a drop of water, is that now the things that were impossible are possible today. Because, you know, we're moms. When you want to introduce a change, you introduce it at a time when you're moving house, when things are happening. So now this is the time. So as a mother, I advise you all, this is the time to introduce something different, because people will take it and accept it because they're ready for everything. So what we're doing now is we're calling out and inviting partners to work with us, whether it's helping us upgrade our digital platform, the online training, or upgrade our mobile app because it's kind of rudimentary. We would love to work with you and learn from you and your expertise. We would want to invite implementers, anybody, governments, NGOs, individuals who want to implement We Love Reading in their own neighborhood or where they work. You're more than welcome to connect with us, and we can give you the program, whether it's the online or the actual training if we open up at some point. But if we don't, we have the online training, and then to open it for all the languages in the world. And so we're open if anybody can help us translate, right? We had an aim of 10 languages by the end of this year, but we can go as many as the whole, any language who's interested and has the capacity to help us translate the training into your language. Or any other ideas, right? You may, after you've heard this, maybe you're thinking about something else. So we invite you to share your ideas, your suggestions, and your critiques. So if you see something that you don't buy, you don't think, you don't understand, or you have a better idea, please share with us, because that's how we learn. We work together, brainstorm together, and think together. So this is where I'm going to end my presentation of what We Love Reading is about in the times of the corona. And I'm going to ask you to, hopefully you've written down your notes on your notebooks or on your digital screens, and that you can share with us your comments and so on. So I'm going to check the chat. But I'm going to open it to a number of questions to stimulate everybody to think and outside the box and see what we can do together. So let me pull up the chat box. If I can do that. I think I need to stop sharing to do that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. I'm trying to find the chat box. Let's see. Maybe I need some help.
Okay, Doctor, what is the issue, please?
Oh, there, I found it. Okay, thank you. I found it. All right. All right. So until we get from the chat box, okay, I haven't seen any questions. I'm going to share the questions that I have put up so that you can help raise your hand if you want to comment or critique. And I will give the option for 3 people to answer. And Mahmoud, I'm going to let you call out on these people, because if I have my screen up, I can't see the chat box. Okay, so the first question I'm going to pose to the audience is, how do you define a local NGO? What does that mean to you? A local NGO versus an international NGO. This is something we've encountered in our interactions with the world, and I'm really curious to see how people think about that going forward. So who would like to share with us? How do they distinguish between local and international NGO? And if there's any tension in those terms going forward. And Mahmoud, you can call upon the people to answer for those who are raising their hand.
Yes, sure, sure. So anyone has a question, please raise your hand or just type it in the group chat.
So until we get people on board to think about this, I'll give you, because like, for example, our organization, We Love Reading, is based in Jordan. So it's local to Jordan. However, we've spread to 55 countries around the world. And that means we're international. Yet sometimes when I've looked at the landscape of NGOs, I realized that we are not counted as international because our headquarters are not in the West. And there are few big international NGOs that are counted international whose original headquarters are actually not in the global South, not in the global North. So I wonder if anybody has any comments on that. Have you experienced the same kind of tension or not? Or if you want to share with me ideas later on, you can always do that because we will be, you'll have my email and our contact list that you can actually communicate with. All right, so that's one question I'm putting up, so food for thought. And I think we need to really redefine what those mean in the world. Why? Because we need to level the playing field so that everybody works together on system change in an equal way. Because sometimes when we talk about system change, we need to have everybody on the table. And sometimes we do have everybody on the table and we'll call, oh yes, we invited the local partners, but then the power dynamics on that table are not equal. There's a domination of the international NGO to the local NGO. So how do you break those? How do you make sure that everybody is equal in this? So it's about terminology, it's about how to facilitate, how do you speak, but definitely I see a tension in these namings of what is local and what is international. And unless we resolve that, we're always going to be stuck in that cycle and really not tapping the grassroots local people who know better their problems and therefore know better to develop solutions for those problems. All right, a second question.
Doctor, yes, we have a question from Bayan. If we can take
please,
it right
go
now.
ahead. Yeah.
Yes, Bayan is asking about how could you build this huge network of connections around the world?
Oh, for We Love Reading? So that's a great question. So what we did is, that's an absolutely great question. We did not go out and invite people. We just proposed a very good program. We showed it works in real life in Jordan, and we advertised it on our social media, talks, conferences, and in writings. And then slowly we would get emails, Facebook messages, phone calls from different people around the world saying, you know, we found the We Love Reading program. We want to be part of this. And they just started by themselves. So because they are initiating it, they are carrying it forward. And actually, I think it's in more countries than 55. I was in the University of Urbana-Champaign last year, and this woman came up to me. I was giving a talk about, biology, nothing to do with We Love Reading. And this woman comes up to me and tells me, "Are you the founder of We Love Reading?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Oh, I read about the program 2 years ago, and I do it in my church." And I thought, wow, she was my celebrity, right? Because I didn't know of her. So not everybody emails us. They just hear about it. It's so simple. That's why We Love Reading has been so successful, because it's such a simple framework, right? That anybody can adopt and make it their own in their own culture. So it has the nice balance, the right balance between scalability and being able to be replicated while maintaining the local culture and the context. And I think it's all because it evolved naturally. People talk about human-centered design. I'm a biologist. I call it natural evolution. All right. So, which brings me to my question. Oh, please, yes.
Yes.
Who do you have here? Please go ahead.
So, yeah, we have a question from Steve.
Please go ahead.
Is the term NGO appropriate in the current context? Is this not a social enterprise? NGO has a very old world connotations.
Mahmoud, can Steve say the question? It's better I hear him.
Okay.
Sure, I'm on now, yeah. Hi. So I'm just curious, yeah, the term NGO has very old world connotations or bureaucratic connotations. And, I think definitions, you're asking for definitions or around locality or geography. And I'm also interested in the actual term itself, because the vision you've got and what you've achieved is very inspiring. And, for a lot of people wanting to create change, the social enterprise mindset is a little bit more appropriate for them. Just curious.
Thank you very much. It's a whole new territory, trying to navigate the names, the terminology, what's in the literature, what people use. And I agree with you. NGO is kind of, it doesn't fit. Maybe the social entrepreneur world should come together and come up with new terminology for the world, because words shape how we think, whether we like it or not, whether we acknowledge it, whether we know it. And so we need to produce these or create these new terminologies so that we can help frameworks change in the minds of people and the mindsets, so that we can think on a more equal way. And this is an invitation, a call for people to come together and think about these things.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. So that leads me to the next question: how should programs be developed? Again, this is a conversation and a discussion that I hear all the time. Should it be developed by academics in universities, or should it be developed by the people themselves who are going through the challenge? Should it be somebody coming from outside, an expert, or should it be who do you think should be the ones developing it, and what is happening today, and what is the better option? If anybody has any comments, ideas or thoughts, that would be great.
So
Raise your
Haluk is asking if you want to reproduce the model in different contexts than children, what would be this new context and or segment of people?
Meaning, if we want to read aloud to older age children.
Yeah.
So we love reading as a program because of research and observation. It's the younger the child, the easier it is to help the child fall in love with reading, or to foster that love of reading, because the brain is still malleable and flexible and so on. So the older the child gets, the more difficult it is. So We Love Reading has decided, to focus and to focus on a niche, to do it good, really good. And so we decide to work on children, and we go from 0 to 12 maximum, or the kids that are running around in the street, and that nobody's taking care of, and so on. So these are the children that we have been focusing on, because we know that we can really make an impact that's long-term. Now, that doesn't mean older children cannot be impacted. They can. But for us, we have minimal resources. We thought, where can we do the biggest impact with the minimal resources? So we chose to work with the younger children. Older children, you have more distractions. You have other genres of books they may be interested in. So the competition with other things is much more difficult. And we've learned to succeed, you need to, for those who are social entrepreneurs on this call, you need to be focused. And so we've never diluted our message. We've never even changed it, even if donors came wanting to do other things. We have been very fixed, and this is our mission. This is what we do, and that's why we become the experts in the field. We are the only ones who work on reading aloud. There are others who work on books, right? We don't think books is the solution. We think it is reading aloud that is the solution, because we know that there are many books that are given out, but if a child doesn't love to read, those books will just stay on a shelf and not be read. So the first step is falling in love with reading, and that's.
So he means, which other problems might reading together may solve?
Which other property? Oh, so when you love to read, when you love to read, you become, first of all, you become a lifelong learner. Your imagination grows, your attention span increases, you learn to listen, you're better at communicating with others, you have more words. We already know if you have more vocabulary, you're going to do better at school, and that means you're going to do better, you're going to get a better job, so the whole socioeconomic status will improve. This is all based on research. We know that your creativity will increase, and this has nothing to do with your IQ, by the way. We know that even in terms of how do you cross the gap in public health, how do you take the people under poverty to help them get out of poverty, just simply reading aloud to a child can help cross that gap.
Yeah.
And the mental health, again, this resilience, you prevent escalation of mental health, because through the reading aloud with an adult, with a parent, you're getting that human attention interaction that's so important that we tend to lose. And even parents who don't know how to interact with their children, just reading a story is one simple way to do it. If they were nobody interacted with them growing up, all they have to do is just hold a book and read with a child. And actually, we're doing a lot of research on that today with NYU Abu Dhabi.
Yes. So she is asking another question. He's asking how important is the delivery, the positivity and communication skills of the educator, the trainer he means, I think.
Okay, so the We Love Reading ambassador, I think that's what they're asking. So the We Love Reading ambassador, I mean, you know, the whole program of training We Love Reading ambassadors is kind of like providing a substitute for the parents. You know, we can't train every parent, so we train one person. So how trained does a parent have to be to read to her children? Not very much. All you need to do actually is have that motivation that I want to make a difference. And that's what and everybody has it, right? We all have it. It's just that we need a catalyst, a spark, something to bring it out. And that's what We Love Reading does. It doesn't create something new. It just brings out what we all have inside us and gives it a place and celebrates it. So these We Love Reading ambassadors don't have to have a lot of skills. I mean, they have to like to volunteer. They have to like to help. They have to like children. And we tell them it's all about having fun yourself. You know, you have to have fun, because if you're having fun, the children will have fun, and they will feel if you're really enjoying it or not. So we tell the We Love Reading ambassadors, you know, just focus on yourself, enjoy it, and everything else will happen by itself. So another question, while people are thinking, what is the difference between research and monitoring and evaluation? Because again, you know what, I come into this area, I'm a basic scientist, and I work with genes and proteins and things that I can count, and really rigorous peer review and critique. And then I come into this world, and I'm kind of like a child in a candy land, because of my ignorance and naivety, I get a license to ask the questions. And it's fascinating, you know, asking all these questions, trying to understand what's going on. And the questions I'm putting forth are the ones I had to struggle with trying to understand the landscape. And one of them was this one about what is the difference between research and monitoring and evaluation? Because I would come in talking about research, and then I'd hear the people working in a program talking about their research. And then in the end, their research is just really monitoring and evaluation, you know, counting and doing a simple survey, not hardcore research, meaning randomized control trials and things like that, which is what we do in our program. So what's unique is that I'm able to, let's say, to make a bridge between research and science and practitioners in a very unique way, because I have my foot in both worlds and kind of understand both worlds. But I'm really curious to see what people are thinking when they look at these two ways of measuring impact. Any comment?
Yeah, so yes, Constance came saying, hello Rana, it's lovely to see you again and congratulations on the wonderful work. My question relates to the changes in the lives of the ambassadors. Have you measured this? And if so, what have you found? Thank you.
Great question. So when we first started out, we were measuring the impact on the children first, because that was initially what we had aimed to do. And then it was actually somebody from UNESCO who had told me, Rana, your program's not just about kids, it's about the adults, right? And that's when he opened our eyes that We Love Reading was doing a lot more than we had originally aimed for. So we're working with the University of Nottingham and a university in Jordan, and we're evaluating these We Love Reading ambassadors before the training, 3 months after the training, 6 months after the training, and now we're going to do in-depth interviews with them to understand the impact on their personality, on their social entrepreneurship skills, and their leadership skills. We had initially done a study showing that their leadership skills went up 80%. So this was kind of like a pilot, and now we're aiming for this bigger study will hopefully come out by the end of the year, because we started it last year, and we will be able to answer that question. And again, I said the majority are women, but we have some men, and these men are amazing. I mean, we have grandfathers, retired generals from the army who are just gathering these kids and reading aloud to them. In the refugee camp, we have dads reading to their kids. And the kids say, you know, we're used to our dad always yelling, and suddenly he's singing and reading a story. It's amazing. So we had a master's students earlier this year, right before COVID. She had interviewed like 14 We Love Reading ambassadors who are fathers, and she's preparing her report that will come through. And I can tell you from now, it's amazing the impact it has on the fathers, and drawing out their wonderful humanity of being with the children. Yeah, which comes, I want to also comment, Constance, about, so another question I wanted to pose is, how do you measure change making? or love of reading for that matter. Again, as a basic scientist where I can count my genes, count my proteins, weigh things, measure things, I come to these and I'm kind of like, oh my God, how do you do this, right? I mean, and I look at the social scientists and the mental health experts, and they have these surveys that ask questions to the beneficiaries, asking things. And to me, it's like, sometimes I'm skeptical, right? How could I, if I answer a questionnaire how I feel today, be a true reflection, a measurement of how I feel from the inside? We don't understand how the brain works. So how can we even try to attempt to understand or measure, for that matter, these different intricate feelings and behaviors inside us? So this is a call out, how basic scientists can work with social scientists. How can we create new ways of measuring impact? And this is very relevant to the donors, right? They want to show the impact. I mean, for We Love Reading, I can show lists of people trained, filling surveys before and after, showing this tremendous improvement. But to me, the skeptical scientist, to me, that's not enough. I mean, anybody can show, numbers and tick boxes. How do you show real impact? And to me, I want to, again, this is another call of storytelling. Storytelling is so powerful. And through it, you can learn how people are thinking. What are they dreaming of? How they have changed from the inside. So again, I also challenge measurement tools and approaches that are prevalent today. Can we change them? Can we put a new paradigm of how we measure? Because if we're going to go towards system change and change how people think and how we do things, we need to change the tools of measurement that we use. And this should also be based on trust. A lot of the measurements we don't base them on trust, and so we lose a lot. I think if we base it on trust, we can gain a lot more. So I don't know if anybody has any comments on that question.
No, we don't have any questions. Just Bayan is answering the question about research and monitoring M&E. Both are important, and good combination of both will drive real picture of the states.
Yes, but there's a difference. Research is more a randomized control trials where you need to compare a control group with an experimental group, while monitoring and evaluation is just simple monitoring and evaluation. Yet some NGOs call it research, so we have to be very careful.
I have a comment about that, Dr. Rana.
Yeah, please.
So I think also, we want to make space for different types of research that are already out there. So for example, ethnographic research really focuses on, research participants' own ways of meaning making. So it is harder to compare across contexts in that sense, because each, group of research participants are going to have their own ways of, their own criteria, let's say. So I think it's not necessarily that we want to find different tools of measurement, but rather that we want to give the criteria for assessment back to the research participants themselves. Agreed.
Very beautifully put. Thank you. Absolutely. It's the storytelling again. Ethnography is about telling the story. I agree. So, and it's giving that value in the eyes of those the funders, the donors, the people who hold you accountable, to tell them this is my measure and that's what I'm going to stick to. And that's what I believe in. That's the real thing. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I think this is my last question. What is better, hard copy books or digital books? I'd love to hear from you. I think I mentioned my take on that earlier, but if anybody has any comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear from them as well. Just to spark it, I mean, we believe in hard books because that's how you talk with the child, and that's how we evolved as a species. And actually, there was research done from University of Cincinnati showing they had actually done MRIs for children's brains, either read a story, watched a story on a digital screen, or read aloud the story, or just audio. And they showed that the brain where they were looking at a screen, the brain was firing very randomly. Those who read audio, just very few parts were fired. But it was those who were read aloud, a storybook, where parts of the brain that were connected logically lit up in a right way. So it was kind of like Goldilocks, too hot, too cold, and just right. So, however, because of COVID-19 and lack of being able to get books, people are going to digital books, which to me is fine. But I would never start with a digital book to make a child fall in love with reading. And this is not my advice. This is the advice of our We Love Reading ambassadors, because they tell me if I start with a phone to try to attract the child to read, the child's not going to take it, because to them, the phone is it's a game thing. So it's an unequal competition. But if I start with a real book and make them fall in love with a real book, then they will go to the phone as a way to find another reading material. Oh, and this is my last one because we're running out. We're almost done. What are the similarities between a social entrepreneur and a scientist? I mean, being both, I feel so much similarity. Both are curious. Both are inquisitive. You know, they want to ask questions. They want to solve problems. So I see a beautiful comparison between them. And maybe somebody could come up with things how they're different. I don't know, but I thought that was I kind of realized, and I thought that was cool. So all social entrepreneurs are scientists and vice versa.
Nice. So,
all right, so I'm going to end. Give me in 1 or 2 minutes. You know, We Love Reading. The butterfly is the logo of We Love Reading because it's based on the chaos theory, which is a theory in physics. You know, I'm a scientist. I have to put in science. That when a butterfly flutters its wings in China, there's a hurricane in the Atlantic. And that's what We Love Reading does. It started in Jordan, and then now it's spread into 55 countries and more. And each We Love Reading ambassador is her own butterfly, creating change in her little neighborhood that is spreading around the world in ripple effects. Because every butterfly, every We Love Reading ambassador, we tell her to train others, to pay it forward. And now that all of you know about We Love Reading, we ask you to pay it forward, to tell others, to read to yourself, to read to the children in your home, in your world, in your family, because reading is so powerful to make a difference in this world, starting from the grassroots. And I love Dr. Seuss's book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. You know, and then they have a new version now. It says, Oh, the places you won't go because of lockdown. That was kind of cool. And in the last page, it says, And will you succeed? 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. And you will. And I'm going to end with this short video. Oh, we're out? There's our stop for the sharing. Hello?
yes, Doctor. Yeah, just reshare if you can. Just press share screen another time.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Okay, there we go. So it's about you know, jumping in and making a difference, regardless of what people think around you. Because if you trust your gut feeling, if you think what you're doing is right, just go do it. So thank you very much. Please stay in touch with us. You can find out more about us on our website, and please follow us on social media. And please send us your remarks, your critiques, your suggestions, so that we can all learn together to create a difference in this world and to be catalysts, so that we can help foster collaborations to solve the urgent problems of our time. Thank you very much. Have a great day.